Now, as you know, here at A2Y, we always do a serious little preaching segment, and this week we're going to start off by talking about our favorite movie. Caleb, what's your favorite movie?
A hard one. Can I give you top three, maybe?
Yeah, go ahead and do your top three.
Unbroken, which is a movie about a World War II B-24 Liberator gunner. If you want to watch it, just go ahead. It's easier watching than explain. So Unbroken, final two. Magnificent Seven.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I don't know. I'd have to leave the number one spot open. I really don't have a favorite. I have a lot of dislikes, but I don't really have a favorite.
Well, I know what my favorite movie is. And it's one that I don't feel like many are going to expect. You know, obviously I love movies like The Matrix, Terminator, and Star Wars. I made him watch Lord of the Rings when he came out to see me.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That was a far out movie.
And I love that it was by Tolkien, and Tolkien was a great Christian guy, really outspoken about his faith, and he brought that into his books. But my favorite movie is Rudy, the one starring Sean Astin. I think it was made in 96. The original story was based off an athlete who was only 5'8", 160, and what he did was he was cornerback when he played football in high school. And he wasn't the fastest guy, and he obviously wasn't the largest guy, but he led the team in tackles because he just outworked everybody.
Rap.
And this led him down the road. He went and worked at a steel mill, put on a couple pounds. Just, you know, it's the 50s. You're working in a mill, you're lifting steel all the time, dealing with hot stuff. And his close and best friend died in the steel mill accident. And the movie captures that scene real well. It's really elegant and really well done. And then Rudy kind of just loses it. He had a girlfriend who he was about to marry at the time, and he tells her, I gotta go. He's had this lifelong dream of playing for Notre Dame, and he said, I've saved the money. At the time, it was about $2,000. I think I've done the math. According to websites, it'd be about $30,000 in today's money, I think. Roughly, I might be wrong. He saved a considerable amount of money, and he said, I'm gonna go. So he leaves his town, I think it was in Illinois, and he just drives out to the Notre Dame campus. And he runs into a father. A father, for those of you who might not know, is it's the pastor of the Catholic Church, and they call him Father. So he goes and talks to this father, and the father says, all right, you don't have the grades because you're not a good student. You're going to go to Holy Cross. It's a little community college right here by Notre Dame. So Rudy goes to this community college, and he works really hard to get grades to go to Notre Dame. And this whole time, he spends his fall and spring campus time up at Holy Cross. He gets a tutor and pays this tutor in the movie by flirting with girls for the tutor, because the tutor is this socially awkward guy. I think it's played by Jon Favreau. Again, great casting role. It's hilarious, the connection between Sean and John in that movie. They play out excellent. So this tutor helps Rudy in his last opportunity, the last quarter of the grading period. Rudy gets accepted into Notre Dame. He goes back home and he tells his family, and his dad's like, hey, I can let you work back in the mill for a little bit over the summer. And Rudy goes, no, I'm going back up to play football. Spring football starts. So Rudy goes up to Notre Dame, and he goes to spring practice, and it becomes clear from the coach dialogue in the movie that Rudy is not the most athletic guy. Not the most gifted guy. I mean, he's just a small guy. He doesn't weigh a lot. He's not very tall, not uber fast, but he's been working real hard. They show montages of him while he was at Holy Cross training, running around campus, jogging to get in shape, doing footwork drills on the old rope ladders where they were actually like lifted up off the ground, high knees getting in and out of the squares. And eventually the D-line coach at Notre Dame says, I'll take this kid. Because even though we have all these kids who we've offered D1 scholarships, they don't make the cut. But this kid, who's like a quarter the size of these guys, has come and outworked all of them, and it's not even close. And one of the other coaches looks at this D-line coach and says, "You're nuts. He's going to get hurt in the first week." But that D-line coach goes and tells Rudy, and Rudy stayed on that practice team. And if you've never played football, practice team football, in my opinion, is different from any other kind of practice team. Because you get your butt whipped every day. It is not fun. I've been practice team player. I won multiple practice scout. It's called a scout team. Won multiple scout team honors at my time at high school football. It's not fun. It sucks. Because you line up and you go against the best guys at your school. And for Rudy, I mean, it's dramatically. I mean, this is Notre Dame. He's playing on the D line for the scout team at Notre Dame, which has been famous for years, Notre Dame University, for producing the best offensive linemen normally in the draft class. Think about O-linemen now. Who's the best two linemen in the NFL right now? You can probably make the argument. Zach Martin, he's a guard for the Cowboys, and easily Quentin Nelson, another guard for the Colts. And this is an annual thing that Notre Dame does, turning out the best O-linemen. And it was like that, too, when Rudy played. I mean, back when Rudy played, it was back when they were still winning natties, national championships and all that. So here's, 5'8", 160 pounds, Rudy going up against the 6'5", 320-pound guys who can run a 5'5" and under. Just athletic beasts that should not be able to move that fast as they can. And they show the montages of him and his broken nose. And my favorite scene of the movie, and I'm proud to say I've done this on my scout team as well, is a scene where Rudy goes and he gets off a block and he tackles the halfback. And instead of celebrating with his other scout team teammates, he goes up to the guy who missed the block. This is Notre Dame's starting guy, and in the movie and in real life, he's probably close to 6'5", 320 pounds, as I said. And Rudy gets up in this guy's face and says, I'll give you the filter version, I think, is, "What the heck, man? You have one job, and that's to stop me. How the heck are you going to be able to stop the opposing team?" And he, slaps the other guy in the face. So the next play, it's a counter. And so this old lineman, turns and runs down. And the next play, Rudy comes down the line, and the other old lineman comes, and he just wrecks him. He doesn't just put him in the ground. He, picks him up and throws him on the ground. And then as Rudy tries to get back up, he shoves him back down. And then says a few choice words and walks away. But the point of the Rudy story is that he doesn't lie there and complain. He springs right back up, and he goes back and does the next play. And that's why it's my favorite movie. Because it really kind of explains the story of my life. I'm about to get brutally honest with you. I have multiple chronic conditions, and I won't go into all of them, but I'll touch on some of the most major ones. First is a pure anxiety disorder. And I was diagnosed with this at the age of 5. And the other big problem I have is a term, Caleb, prepare to hear a big word, and I probably won't pronounce it right, and it's impossible to spell because it's spelled with a weird I, and it has silent vowels and stuff. It's called encephalopathy. Encephalopathy. And it's a general term for a brain disease. And I was born with it, and it's chronic. It affects my hands. It has caused gross motor delay and other things. So what most people see as easy tasks, grabbing cash out of your wallet, picking up a piece of paper off your desk, those are really hard for me because my brain can't talk to my finger right. My brain can't talk to movement rights, my body right. I went and was tested for all this stuff at a young age, and at the end of it, they called my parents in a room and they said, he'll never ride a bike, probably. He'll probably never play sports at a competitive level. And they just kept giving him things that I would never do. And instead of hearing this and then just thinking, oh my gosh, our son has all this stuff, what are we going to do? My dad turned to my mom and said, I'm not telling him. And she said, what? He goes, I'm not telling him. We're going to treat him just like we treat our other son. I've since gone on to have more siblings, but at the time I had an older brother. He said, I'm going to treat him just like his older brother. Just going to raise him like he doesn't have it. But we'll know, and he won't. And I've come to greatly appreciate that. Because it might have taken me years. I didn't learn to ride a bike until I was in 3rd grade. I didn't do karaoke properly, which is a drill that you start doing when I started playing football at 3rd grade. I didn't start doing karaoke right until I was in like 6th grade. And I had done it at every practice since 3rd grade. I didn't dribble a basketball well until I was well into middle school. Again, because my brain it doesn't talk to my body the way it's supposed to do. And, this makes life not necessarily that easy. I mean, I got to deal with things like that most people don't. In elementary school, because of my encephalopathy, my handwriting is atrocious. I mean, just awful. Here, I'll hold I had to write something out before today. It is on camera. It looks like chicken scratch. It was so bad, and these conditions were so bad that I got put on a special education plan. And I have one still. Special ed, as they say. And, in elementary school, back when everyone else wrote on paper, I did all my spelling tests on a computer. We did it on Word documents, so you couldn't see all the spelling errors, but, that's just an example.
You live, you learn. Yeah.
Accommodate. That's why I type out most of my notes. I don't write them down.
He is a very, very fast typer. You see, I use these 2 fingers.
He's talking about his pointer and thumb.
Yep. These 3 right here.
Pointer, thumb, and middle finger.
You can look around and do it. I've watched him maybe twice, and it's like a bolt of lightning.
It's because they had me start doing typing lessons at 3rd grade and on. And then in 6th grade, everyone got computers because that's how it worked, especially at my school. I mean, in 6th grade, everyone got one. So we go on, and as I get older, I begin to notice something. Because by the time I was in 8th grade, my parents, by then, they had told me all my problems. And like any 8th grader freshman would do, I Google my stuff. Now, when I got diagnosed with all these things, my parents were specifically told, don't go and Google it. Just don't. And there's reasons why, especially with the encephalopathy, because it's just a general term for a brain disease. It could be like a forgetting disease or other things. It's just a general term. I don't know the exact name for mine because I haven't been to a doctor about it since. But I gave you my symptoms, and that's what it does to me. I went Googling, and I found out that my encephalopathy and my anxiety were not just chronic, but especially the 2 I just mentioned, they're degenerative. And let me tell you, it's not fun to be a junior in high school now and realize that your chronic symptoms are degenerative. Because just 3 years ago, grabbing that, $5 bill out of your wallet wasn't that hard. Well, now it takes you a second. And let's say, well, just work with your fingers. Just do it every day. I do. I'm in the weight room every day, working on my hands, getting them stronger. It doesn't help because it's chronic and it's degenerative.
So I'm sorry, I'm not really keen on English. Does that mean it's like arthritis and stuff like that, where it kind of gets more you start to feel the effect over time more and more?
Not where you feel more and more. It's where it gets progressively worse over a time.
Yeah, that's arthritis. I was trying to put it in a
layman's terms.
Way. Yeah. My level of English speaking.
And the anxiety one, that's the easiest to detect. Because as a kid, like a new kid would show up to school and I would just have a hard time going to talk to him. Because that's just like every other kid, you're just kind of shy. And then I got into middle school and it was over the summer of like my 7th to 8th grade or 6th to 7th grade year. And I noticed that I had gotten social anxiety. Now, I was actually a pretty social kid. Didn't have that. I mean, even with the anxiety, I would go and talk to people. But when the social anxiety came, that pretty much stopped. And every teacher from then on has thought that I'm a complete introvert and don't like talking to people. Truth is, I love talking to people. Sometimes I'll try to go up and talk to someone, and I get so anxious and I get so wound up that I go and dry heave. So, even at a young age, I experienced these symptoms, obviously. And in my 5th grade year, I read this verse that I'm about to read to you every day.
Okay.
It's from the book of Philippians. I feel like I have the verse name wrong, but it says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God."
Yes, I have that verse down out in my car. Yes. Yeah. I know what verse you're talking about. I love that. Continue. Sorry.
So I read that every day in my 5th grade year. Wish I still did. Because that really helps. It doesn't just say present your anxieties or your worries or your problems to God. It says to do it with petition and thanksgiving. Meaning to do it like happily and joyfully. It's like the story about the children where his apostles were telling him, like trying to shoo the kids away, and he says, "No, let them come. I love the little children. They're gifts from God."
Yeah.
He's telling you, give me your worries, give me your anxieties and your fears, and I'll take them for you. And that's, to me, like one of the best messages I could ever be told. Because, you can tell your parents things, but, they're just here on earth with you. There's not much they can do. They can't force you to not have anxiety when you go out in public. They can't force you to make it easier for you to go tell the cashier that you want your change back or whatever. I mean, these are social situations that people like me have all the time. And, I feel like it was in our 8th grade year. What year was it when everyone freaked out about mental health and pushed it everywhere? I'm trying to remember. I feel like it was it was fairly recent. It was like 2017, 2018.
I remember.
But like you guys know what I'm talking about, where like on social media, like all these celebrities, because it was after a series of famous celebrities killed themselves out of depression. And it basically was just a bunch of these celebrities being like, well, I suffer from anxiety and I suffer from depression. And I listen to all those people and whatever. You have millions of dollars. Well, it wasn't until COVID hit, and, everyone had not everyone, but a lot of people posted stuff about having social anxiety about going back in the normal world. And I, too, had it because, over the summer, if you're not in I was in football, but those guys all the time. You're just with them all the time. They don't really count. Like, I would go to grocery stores over quarantine, and I wouldn't be first time being around a group of people, and I would freak out. My body would try to shut down, and I would try to crawl inside myself. And I'm not like that as a person. So I eventually went and got help, and I'm now much better, but that's, that doesn't cure the encephalopathy. And all that fun stuff that I get to deal with on a daily basis. The going and talking to the doctor can't help solve the problem. Here's the best example of my encephalopathy. I took a Spanish class in my sophomore year, and the teacher was great, but her one flaw, I would say, is that she would give you out papers on Monday. You'd write notes on Monday, and then on Thursday you need to finish those notes on that same paper. So obviously I had a folder. I think it was this exact folder. You can see it's a good folder. But she would say, go and grab this page. And so most kids open their folder, they go and grab their page, and they put it on their desk. Well, by the time that they've gone and grabbed it and put it on their desk, I'm still sitting here doing this motion. Can't even demonstrate it. Trying to grab that one specific piece of paper. And you might say, Dyson, you seem to be doing it well. No, it's because I'm grabbing them by the clump. She would say, grab this one specific paper. Try to watch. Oh, look at that. That's 2 papers, not 1. That's the best example I can give to you about my encephalopathy and my fun with that. And all that fun stuff. Caleb, you got anything to chip in?
This is my first time hearing a lot of this. Just trying to take it in.
Well, it's because I kind of have the same attitude that my parents had. I'm not going to tell people. I've told my coaches throughout the years. And they understand because, we'll line up and do a drill, and I can do it 3 times, and I still won't get it right. And it's not because I'm just messing up. It's because my brain can't tell my body to do it correctly.
Yeah.
It just can't, and there's nothing I can do about it. But God gave me a gift. Through all this crappy stuff, He gave me a gift. And that was the will and the drive to outwork anybody. Now, obviously, there are exceptions. I don't mean everybody. But I would challenge most of the population. I would say up to 90% of the population. I'll challenge anyone to outwork me on something. Because that's how I'm wired. I will try to outwork anybody. I have that Rudy mentality. You can come and you can hit me as hard as you can. You can knock me down, you can step on me. And this has happened on the field multiple times, and it happens in life, happens in school. You will come and you will beat me down. But I'm wired from God. I'll spring back up and run back to my spot almost out of spite in you. To show you, you knocked me down, but now you got to come do it again. It's just that will, that drive. And so I've heard so many people, well, I'm not doing well in math because I just don't feel like it. It's so hard. Well, I have learning disorders. What's your excuse? I have a B right now and you're failing. I have reasons to fail. You just don't want to do your stuff. It's just how I'm wired. It's just how I am. It's how I was made. I know people around me who are immensely talented. Show up and just get A's in school. Show up and can just run as fast as they want. But they don't do anything in life. Why? Because they don't have that will. They don't have that drive to say, hey, this guy's applying as the same position for me. I'm going to show up 30 minutes early to the interview. I'm going to show up and clean out that building, show them that I mean business, that I want this job more than they do. And guess what? That guy who showed up 30 minutes earlier, he got the job. Why? Because he showed up and he outworked you. He's not even hired yet. But that's how people like me are wired. Is how it is.
I liked that. That was pretty good. Pretty good representation.
Now, I could give you stories of God giving me this will and drive and giving me peace in times of anxiety, but I've been there, done that. My grandfather is a pastor. He's very famous around local areas here in Indiana and Ohio and places in Michigan and in other countries where he's gone and preached. I've gone with him on a couple trips. I've talked in small churches, big churches. But I don't want to tell you those stories. I want to tell you this. God will give you weaknesses, and He will give you strengths. And in those areas where He gives you weaknesses, there's a balance effect. Because you have strengths and you have weaknesses. Well, what do you think will bring this weaknesses? And this pen are your weaknesses, and this mouse is your strengths. What do you think will make these even? What do you think? Well, to me, I know the answer. It's God. He gave me encephalopathy. I can't grab things. I can't do karaoke, or karaoke, as some coaches say. But look at that. I have the will to outwork people. I can't go and talk to people. Look at that. I have the will to force myself and go and do it. Because God is the key. Caleb, anything you want to say on that?
Pretty much summed that up. It was very good.
I have a bit I want to read off to you.
Okay.
It says, God, I wrote this, and it says, God is the key to your flaws, the yin to your yang. He's what makes you complete and makes you a great person. For Jesus was the only perfect one. And having a relationship with him is the one and only true race for perfection. He was the only perfect person who ever existed on this earth. Out of the however million, billion, trillion peoples that are here now and are here to come, he's been the only one who is perfect. And the only way to truly try to get to perfection, that you hear all these motivational speakers say, perfect effort. It's another quote from one of my favorite movies, When the Game Stands Tall. The head coach in that movie is just give your perfect effort. Well, no one has a perfect effort. Nothing's perfect in this world. As soon as Adam and Eve ate that apple or whatever fruit it was off that tree, nothing's been perfect. Except one man. It was absolutely perfect in every way. So next time you're out chasing perfection, you know that you can't do it on your own. And you can only do it through Jesus, who came and died for you and saved you. And only through him can you achieve perfection. Thank you for joining me and my co-host Caleb Ream, and I hope that you have a great week and great month. Thank you for listening to A2Y.